Tonight on CBC Vancouver News.
Daughters, one by one, they started jumping.
A house set on fire and the harrowing escape of a Ukrainian priest in Victoria and his family.
There is an urgent and widespread need for more transit and more transportation choices.
Lofty goals, but where does the money come from? Translink's big plans for the next 10 years. And the cost of living is up across the board, why you shouldn't expect prices to drop anytime soon.
This is CBC Vancouver News.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Anita Bathe. A Ukrainian priest and his family are lucky to be alive after escaping from their burning house early this morning. The Victoria home is next to the Ukrainian Catholic Church and was set ablaze intentionally. As Mira Baines reports, police are now trying to piece together what happened and the bigger question, why?
Fire crews spent the morning cleaning up after flames ripped through this heritage house in downtown Victoria. Reverend Yuri Vishnevsky lives in the home with his family, and he's a pastor at the Ukrainian Catholic Church of St. Nicholas next door. He says his wife heard a noise early this morning.
You know, like gulp, gulp when someone's emptying the bottle of, liquid. And then by the smell, she could tell that it was gasoline, and someone was pouring the gasoline right through the mail slot inside the house.
He says there was gasoline all over the floor, flames and black smoke. Vishnevsky got out through the back door, but says he saw his 3 daughters and wife upstairs gasping for breath.
Because there was no way out, and so kind of daughters, one by one, they started jumping. The youngest, the middle, and then the oldest. And when the oldest landed, apparently there was already shattered glass on the ground, and she cut her arm.
Vishnevsky's wife waited on a ledge, and fire crews arrived and used a ladder to rescue her.
It was a very aggressive fire, and given the type of construction and the age of the building, it proved very challenging from a fire suppression perspective.
One of his 3 daughters lost a lot of blood and was taken to hospital. He says they're together now and dealing with the shock of what happened. He's struggling with who would intentionally set his home on fire with 3 little children asleep inside.
It was targeted for whatever reasons.
Vishnevsky says he's never received any threats.
But no, not before the war started in Ukraine, or no after. It's total shock.
The family's cat also survived, but had to be resuscitated by emergency crews. Police are looking for who is behind the fire and why they started it, and whether it was a hate crime.
Obviously something that we are looking at. There is nothing clear to indicate motive at this point, other than the fact that it was an arson.
Investigators say there are questions due to the tensions in Ukraine and the home's location next to the church, but so far it's a mystery.
Here we have some information, but we need more. And we know that there are people out and about in our community, even in the early hours of the morning. Between 12 and 1:30 this morning, that is the area that we're targeting for additional information.
Police are asking witnesses who may have seen anything suspicious or may have captured any dash cam video to contact them. Mira Baines, CBC News, Victoria.
Business owners with storefronts in a Gastown hotel that went up in flames last week are frustrated they're being denied access to their units. The Winters Hotel was set to be demolished today, but there are unexpected delays. And as John Hernandez reports, there are concerns the project could run longer than expected.
I spoke for an hour with...
I'm angry, I'm sad, I'm frustrated, I'm tired. It's been endless.
Jason Gallup has been waiting at this fence since 7 a.m., holding on to the slim hope he'll be able to get into his store.
All the retailers here have been fighting to get back into their stores to salvage whatever they possibly could.
He runs this watch repair shop in the Winters Hotel. When the building erupted into flames, he grabbed what he could.
I had to make a decision, and I went to one of my safes and I pulled out as many customers' goods as I possibly could.
For days, he's been trying to get back in to get more goods and tools, but has been routinely denied by city officials, citing safety concerns, including once again today.
My tools I've been collecting since I was 17. So we're at the point now where I can't get in there to get that stuff. I'm out here looking at the building being demolished on all of the rest of the customers' goods that are in there.
The demolition was expected to begin this morning, but there were delays over police concerns that a trespasser entered the building. Businesses fear the demolition and road closures could drag on much longer than expected.
It's heartbreaking. We're hearing a lot of struggle. These businesses have just gotten out of a global pandemic, and now this. It's just sort of one thing after another.
Meanwhile, displaced residents moved into new permanent housing, and preliminary results of the fire investigation are expected to be released by tomorrow. Experts say isolating the cause could prove challenging.
Where we really do have major damage in buildings, it's common to have an undetermined determination of the fire.
But answers those impacted desperately want to find out.
Why is this happening? How did this happen? Right? Why was there a fire? Why did it go through the building so fast? Why can't we get back into the building to get our things out?
The demolition is now expected to start at 7 a.m. on Thursday. John Hernandez, CBC News, Vancouver.
From speedier buses to new SkyTrain extensions, Translink is looking ahead 10 years, and the new projects seem like good news for commuters and cyclists. But the Transit Authority's ambitions still leave plenty of questions. Joel Ballard is here to break down the plan for Metro Vancouver. Joel, what are the biggest highlights?
Well, Anita, it's dense. It covers the first 10 years of Translink goals from its 2050 transportation plan, touching on all different types of transit. Some of the key takeaways include doubling regional bus service, building up to 9 new bus rapid transit system routes, exploring future SkyTrain routes, as well as extending the Millennium Line to UBC. There's the gondola to SFU, and even creating 450 kilometers of new cycling-only paths. Now, I want to focus in on the bus rapid transit systems. This type of transit doesn't yet exist in Metro Vancouver, but it's a popular tool in other major cities around the world. It's new, zero-emission buses that operate within their own dedicated, traffic-separated lanes, including one that would service the North Shore. In fact, a major part of the 10-year plan is a committed investment in buses and not necessarily SkyTrain.
There are lots of really important transit corridors that need better transit, need rapid transit in the region. But if we were to wait for SkyTrain to be able to fill in that, the reality is we'd probably be sitting here 100 years from now, still not being able to fully complete that. So really, this is about us being able to move faster, to be able to improve transit across the region in a much more quickly and cost-effective manner.
To give you an example, Translink says it would cost $15 million per kilometer to build a bus rapid system, compared to $400 million per kilometer for SkyTrain.
Okay, Joel, I know you just briefly touched on costs, but these are lofty goals. We know that they're also looking at making that SFU gondola a reality as well. So can you give us a better idea of the price tag we're looking at overall with these future projects?
That's always the big question, isn't it? And unfortunately, right now, there's no clear answer. This is the wish list of what Translink deems the most crucial projects to achieve over the next 10 years. Next, there will be consultation, then more planning, and that's when Translink will start to budget each project. And though it will likely be expensive, experts say it could be worth it if it leads to more people ditching their vehicles.
To me, that's the bottom line question, is not how much it's going to cost, but how much value we're going to get out of the whole thing. Every dollar we invest in this 10-year plan will generate more value than money that could be invested in transportation alternatives that were designed around everyone driving everywhere in their car.
Overall, Pearl is pleased with the 10-year plan, but he says the challenge now becomes whether Translink can actually execute it. Anita?
All right, we will wait and see. Joel Ballard tonight. Thank you. Well, the city of Richmond is extending its temporary patio program introduced to help struggling restaurants during the pandemic. But as Steve Zhang tells us, businesses serving all different types of Asian food are divided on whether it's a move that's useful to them.
From sushi to Indian curry to dim sum, Richmond residents are spoiled for choice when it comes to Asian cuisine. Since the pandemic, dining outside has been an added bonus, but some restaurants say, for the type of food they serve, there's no benefit to expanding the patio program.
I think there may be still a few of them have the right kind of serving. They can do it. But by far the majority of them, restaurants like this type, would not.
David Chung owns Jade Seafood Restaurant and serves as president of the BC Asian Restaurant Cafe Owners Association. He doesn't see patios as being too popular in Richmond, in part because of how the great outdoors affects the dining experience.
And then when you're out there, you have insects, you have dust, you have people walking by you, look at you, and you have car driving by, and just hygiene-wise is not even that appealing to a lot of Chinese people, right?
He says restaurants like his want to seat their customers indoors with a preference for hot food. And so long as the pandemic keeps improving, he says there's really no need for an alternative program. Right now, 67 businesses in Richmond have a temporary outdoor patio permit. Roughly half are Asian restaurants.
I come from Hong Kong, and in Hong Kong, there's so many places they offer food outside. There are night markets, actually.
City Councillor Chak Au says the program is a great opportunity to expand the available options to people, particularly younger diners who are more open to eating outside.
If we don't have it in Richmond, probably we will be outperformed by other cities that offer this kind of opportunities. So I really hope that this will open up more business for the local people and make people happier.
Jung Wen Hao, owner of Hao's Lamb Restaurant, supports the move because he wants to build. Specializing in lamb dishes, he hopes he'll be able to have an outside grill. They should work according to the requirements of each restaurant. As long as it doesn't interfere with the original framework, I think the government should give some more support. Restaurants with temporary permits have had their expiry dates pushed back to June 1st, 2023, to give them more time to transition to the city's upcoming permanent patio program. Steve Zhang, CBC News, Richmond.
After nearly 20 years of Fraser Health housekeeping and food service workers being contracted out to private companies, staff is being brought back in-house. The hope is the move will help retain a stable workforce with more support for patients. More than 350 frontline staff will receive placements in the Fraser Health region at Eagle Ridge, Burnaby, and Royal Columbian hospitals. Last summer, BC committed to bringing back about 4,000 workers, reversing a move the BC Liberals made while in power. Hospital union leaders have told CBC privatizing these jobs led to lost wages and pension. And in Richmond again, a new urgent primary care centre is opening next week.
Next week, the centre will offer urgent care services. This means people who have non-life-threatening conditions that need to be addressed within 12 to 24 hours will be able to access the Richmond City Centre UPCC for help. Urgent care will be available Monday to Saturday, and weekends have always been important as we've developed urgent primary care centres.
By autumn, the centre will offer more services like social work, dietitians, and mental health care. This comes amid a critical shortage of primary care physicians in BC. Now, when we talk about BC's toxic drug crisis, we often show you images and bring you stories from the downtown east side. But that doesn't really paint the full picture of what's happening in our province. The drug crisis is hitting all corners of BC, from urban centres to the remote rural areas. Our Brendan Coulter is looking closely at the Kootenay region, where advocates say the crisis is only getting worse.
So we're just trying this batter, it's homemade batter.
For the last 8 years, Tammy Pocha has been cooking up breakfast for people facing adversity. And she's watched as the overdose crisis has grown more deadly.
I found people passed away. I've had to witness that. I've had to do the try to survive them. It's a lot of stress.
Operation Street Angel was founded by the Ktunaxa Nation in 2010 to give support to people living in poverty. Pocha told me when she first started, she was mainly dealing with alcohol. But now
we've seen a big increase on overdoses. We've caught ourselves we had people using in our bathrooms that we had to do the Knockstone kit.
Cranbrook is in the Interior Health region, where the number of overdose deaths rose from 236 in 2018 to 372 in 2021. And the data shows 2022 is on track for even more. This wall shows the faces of Street Angel's clients who've died in the last 12 years, 7 from toxic drugs.
For the longest time, it was just the few people. The wall is a memory wall, so they never get forgotten.
Former drug user Lorianne Fletcher also works with the group. She's now dedicating her life to helping people who struggle with addiction. But she says it's getting harder and more triggering to be around users all the time.
It's getting harder for me. Yesterday, I reached out to Tammy and asked for help. So now she helped me get counseling right away.
The hope from both women is for more resources, specifically detox centers in small communities like Cranbrook, so no more photos are added to their wall. Brendan Coulter, CBC News, Cranbrook.
Meteorologist Johanna Wagstaffe joins us now with the forecast. I hope you're staying dry out there, Joe. I think the rain's about to maybe start, but obviously you know that more than I do.
No, you're right, Anita. Next time we talk, I'm going to be inside because a heavy rain band is coming up from the south here in North Vancouver. The first bits and spots have begun. Let me take you to the radar because it is already raining steadily across other parts of Metro Vancouver. Those bands of yellow in the radar indicate heavier rainfall rates. So we are seeing a couple slide from the south upwards. If you're downtown Vancouver, the studio should be getting into some heavier bands any minute now. This is the start of a system tracking to us from the south. Washington low moving up into the south coast. This will be our story overnight and into Tuesday morning. It was a nice day before the rain started. We saw a lot of sunshine and temperatures actually hit the seasonal mark. We were at a 13 earlier today, coming down to a 9 right now. And this is about what it will feel like for most of your Thursday. So a couple of degrees cooler than where we're at today. As far as rainfall totals, again, most of it will fall overnight tonight and through your Thursday morning, but expect a general 10 to 20 millimeters before things ease in the afternoon. But as they do ease, we will see pockets of showers. So I'd be prepared for rain for most of your Thursday before things clear out, maybe just in time for a Thursday evening sunset. And I've got a sunny looking forecast after that, Anita. So I'll see you inside for the next one to tell you about it.
All right, we'll talk soon. Well, we started with 128 small towns, and now we're down to 4 in our search for BC's best. In today's semifinal, it's Vancouver Island champion Ucluelet against Southwest BC champion Lillooet. Justin McElroy reports on this matchup between two very different but very beautiful communities.
It's a lot like any small town. The coffee shop and bakery on Main Street bustling on a sunny morning.
I find it's worth supporting your local businesses and avoid driving to the big city because everything that you need is actually here.
Drive around Lillooet and you'll see stunning mountains, but also new buildings going up and optimism about where the town is heading.
It doesn't look like it's changed, right? But it is changing, and that's the really exciting part. We're not a one-stop shop anymore. You know, we've got a lot to offer.
The story of Lillooet is a lot like the story of BC. It's the Fraser River. It's people who have lived on this land for centuries. It's the gold rush and the railways, and it's about a town reinventing itself time after time to suit the needs of today.
That's what makes this community so passionate and so tight, is that everyone is here to pursue their dreams.
Rolf de Bruin founded Lillooet's first winery over a decade ago, choosing the area over the Okanagan after falling in love with it.
And I remember looking at these mountains and being awed, like, oh, this is so Canadian. And so we drove up here, and yeah, it really grabbed our hearts.
Lillooet has grabbed a lot of people's hearts in the search for BC's best small town, but is probably the underdog against Ucluelet, purely because less people have discovered it.
The tourists are coming here like crazy now.
If Lillooet is starting its path up, Ucluelet is already there, with huge growth in both population and housing prices in recent years. and it's easy to understand its appeal. A town on the edge of Vancouver Island, a gateway to West Coast wilderness on land or sea.
So you really feel like you're out there, but it's super easy to get to. And then we're surrounded by, beautiful nature.
Alan Kukier moved from Vancouver to Ucluelet to start this brewery, convert it from an old church.
We get to reap all the benefits without having, to be the number one in the spotlight.
Getting to number one in the search for BC's best small town would shine more of a spotlight on Ucluelet, but whether they or Lillooet advance to the championship, the sun shines brightly on both. Justin McElroy, CBC News, Lillooet.
And it does appear the sunshine of popular opinion is shining a bit brighter on the west coast of Vancouver Island tonight. Ucluelet looks well on its way to the finals. As of right now, it's in the lead by about 59% versus Lillooet at 41%. Well, they're alarming, and we know they're happening, but hate crimes are a rarity in the courts. After the break, why the bar to lay charges is so high. Thanks for joining our commercial-free live stream tonight. Calgary is about to undergo a transformation as superheroes and villains prepare to march down the streets. The city's Comic and Entertainment Expo starts tomorrow, and we caught up with one cosplay enthusiast who tells us why she's so drawn to the event.
Cosplay really is for everyone, no matter your race or body shape or size or age. Hi, my name is Robin Young, and I am the proud owner of Living the Dream Cosplay. Cosplay to me is a all-encompassing term. It is derived from costume and play, and so it's about dressing up in costumes and getting together with all of your friends and having a great time. In 2018, I made my first cosplay, and we attended Calgary Expo with my husband and my stepson. And from there, it totally snowballed. I met so many new friends and attended the Parade of Wonders. And once I found out that there was this huge community of really welcoming, amazing people, I was totally hooked and have been creating ever since. One of my first costumes was the one that you see behind me, which is Merida from the Disney movie Brave. I tend to make costumes when the character inspires me. For the last 2 years, we haven't been able to get together for conventions and things like that in any large capacity. So cosplaying has moved online in a big way, which has, I think, made it more accessible to a lot of people. There have been online costume competitions and seminars and tips and tricks, and a lot of creatives sharing their process online. And it's been incredibly helpful for me and such a gift that more experienced creators are sharing their process and their works online. It's helped me grow as a cosplayer, so I'm really excited to give back to the community. So we get to come for 4 days of Expo and meet everybody and participate in the parade and put on panels and share some of our knowledge with everybody at Expo. It's really invigorating and exciting to see everyone's costumes and see what everyone's been working on, and just meet all those people that I've been chatting with online and who have been supporting me for the last 2 years. Cosplay is for everyone. So there can be a closet cosplay, which is something that you just have out of your wardrobe and you wear it, and that's your costume. That's a great costume. There can be something that you've spent months making and have researched hours and hours and hours of all the details, and that's also a good costume. You don't need a lot of money or experience to cosplay. You just need to get started, so just go for it.
A Vancouver man has been charged with promoting hate, and he's one of only 4 people in BC who has been formally accused of a hate crime in the past 2 years. Jason Proctor is here now to explain this case and a rarely used section of the criminal code. Jason, what is at the center of all of this?
Well, so Anita, this is a case which caused a lot of upset in Richmond back in May 2021. What's alleged is that this man, Chow Wang, was in Richmond, caught on CCTV video, scrawling a racist graffiti on a poster outside of an optical shop of a black model. He allegedly drew a picture of a rope and a swastika and scrawled characters in Cantonese that were later translated, essentially advocating violence against black people. And so he has been charged with regards to promoting hate in this case. I learned from attending a bail hearing the other day that he's also a suspect in a similar incident involving racist graffiti in Nanaimo. But as you pointed out, these are phenomenally rare charges under Section 319 of the Criminal Code. And that's why this is worth marking.
Well, why are hate charges so rare, though, especially when it seems like we've been seeing, well, we know because of the stats that we have been seeing so many more incidents?
Yeah, you know, I mean, that is a question a lot of people are asking. As you say, both through anecdotal evidence, statistics, and reports from police, hate crime, and particularly incidents involving racist anti-Asian attacks, are on the rise. That's what we've been told, and yet we don't really see a commensurate increase in hate crimes. The thing is, if you talk to police who investigate these types of crimes, they are difficult to prosecute. A racist slur in itself is odious, but it's not necessarily a crime. But the offenses that we have in the criminal code are promoting or advocating hate. So a few of these have been very high profile. There was one against a guy named Yves Castonguay who scrawled racist graffiti on the Vancouver Chinese Cultural Center. There was also an international case involving a man in Kelowna who was pleaded guilty to advocating racism and hatred against a Congolese ethnic group. And so those cases have come to attention, but we learned only about this case, and there's another one involving an Indigenous man who was charged with promoting hate as well last year because their names happen to be on court lists, which, you know, we look at. And that again is one of the issues with regards to this, because the question is, who is keeping track? And often, you know, we have other provisions within the criminal code like assault or mischief, where hatred comes up as a motivation in sentencing or within the charge of mischief itself. But again, that doesn't necessarily feed into statistics about this crime, which is so much in the public eye and which so many people are saying needs more attention.
Well, thank you for bringing this to light, Jason. We know you spend a lot of time going through those court lists. Jason Proctor reporting for us tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, if you've noticed the cost of everyday items going up in BC, you're not alone. The inflation rate in Canada jumped to 6.7% in March. That's the highest it's been in 31 years. Now, Stats Canada says prices are up across the board, with transportation costs leading the way. And as Leanne Young reports, experts are warning things won't ease anytime soon.
The numbers show what many Canadians already know. We are feeling the squeeze.
Yeah, like I absolutely have noticed. There's no way to really not notice.
I cook a lot more at home, definitely, even though grocery prices are going up. That's been really tough.
Used to enjoy our little late night drives, but not recently. It's been expensive.
The cost of living is up. Canada's inflation rate spiked to 6.7%, hitting a 3-decade high, a massive jump from pre-pandemic times.
When we look behind it, you know, we see COVID, we see the Russia-Ukraine war. So there's some historic factors behind these big increases.
Uncertainty from the war has sent gas prices skyrocketing, up 40% from a year ago, driving up shipping costs, making everything from furniture to food more expensive.
We're just going to have to strap down, and we're going to have to deal with this over the next year and a half.
Financial planners are advising Canadians, if they aren't already, to watch their spending.
We do need to start shifting our mindset towards what's important to us and how we can start saving.
something that's top of mind for many.
Budgeting week to week is what I've been doing with the food, and it's really helping out. You know when you're buying and what you're going to buy. Watch what's on sale.
Walking more, like less time in cars.
Try to do a little bit more cooking at home, and another thing is price matching. That helps too. Some grocery stores do that.
I may not even go on vacation this year.
Experts warn getting inflation under control will take time. The Bank of Canada aims for inflation at around 2%.
We are committed to bringing inflation back to target, and we're prepared to be forceful if needed.
It's already doing the only thing it can to get there, raising interest rates, hoping to cool an overheated economy and curb rising costs. Leanne Young, CBC News, Vancouver.
We see there how this rise in the cost of living is forcing people to consider their spending. When it comes to pinching pennies, it's also hitting farmers and producers. The Shuswap Food Association Society is one group working on solutions right here in BC by encouraging people to eat and shop local.
Probably one of the only positive things that will come out of this is I think people are going to suddenly realize the real value of food. I think we've been living in a world that doesn't make sense, where, you know, it's for some reason it's cheaper to buy food that's flown in from another country. We are going to see that actually local food is going to be more competitive in the market.
Farmers markets could be an option for some, but no matter where you shop, rising prices are forcing many to reduce their spending and look for creative ways to save money too. Carolyn Dunn now with the tough decisions people are making about their finances.
Annette Lowe has been serious about the business of redeeming coupons for about 7 years. She spends about 12 hours a week to save 40% on the average grocery bill.
If you can save, every dollar helps, every dollar. So yeah, I find it to be a huge difference.
Canadians from coast to coast to coast are looking to offset rising inflation however they can. Prices on everything from food to electricity and home heating to transportation are squeezing family budgets. Welder Peter Wickett and his family have reduced dining out and changed their outlook.
Before we were making changes so that we could save up for our future, and today that's not something that we even look at anymore. Downgrading vehicles is our next possibility.
Kayla Rukin says big life decisions like starting a family are that much harder to make.
It's scary to take on anything else, so you're very trapped in kind of what you have, and just maintaining that, there's not really any moving forward.
Insolvency experts say more Canadians are facing the prospect of not being able to pay their bills. Their best advice is to tackle higher interest debt like credit cards as a priority.
Try to get rid of them as quickly as possible and put them away until you can resolve the situation. Involve your family members in your financial discussions. So, you know, one partner's not out spending, well, you're trying to save money or trying to get rid of debt.
And brace yourself, as no one knows for sure when inflation will start to cool. Carolyn Dunn, CBC News, Calgary.
Researchers at the University of Waterloo have released an environmental report that paints a grim picture of what could lie ahead for BC and the rest of Canada. It warns that extreme heat could lead to more suffering and fatalities in the years ahead. CBC meteorologist Johanna Wagstaffe has been digging into the data for us here and joins us live again. Jo, what does this research mean for us here in British Columbia?
Anita, the BC interior was one of 3 hotspots or red zones that this report indicated we're going to see a dramatic increase in mortality because of increased heat waves in the next few decades. The other hotspots being southern prairies and the corridor that stretches from the Great Lakes through to the St. Lawrence in southern Quebec, where they did see over 80 heat-related deaths in 2018. Of course, nothing compares in recent years to the over 526 heat-related deaths that we experienced along the South Coast just last summer. So the report looked at 35 metropolitan or major hubs across Canada, plus rural areas, but it really is the cities, mainly due to the urban heat island effect. And that's where we'll see a 10 to 15% increase, a 10 to 15 degree, I should say, increase in temperatures, which, Anita, will lead to a 100 to 400% increase in heat-related death in the next 60 years. So the lead author is saying we need to take this more seriously. We need to consider extreme heat a natural disaster, just like we do for wildfires and floods.
Yeah, that's really scary to think about, especially when you look at what we already went through this summer. So what are the solutions here? Are there any?
Yes, luckily, this report is all about the solutions, Anita. This is coming from the Intact Center on Climate Adaptation, and really it looked at all of the solutions in place across the country. Because heat is so connected to health, it's really a provincial jurisdiction. So this report really wanted to collate all of the solutions out there and give empowerment to individuals. Take a listen to the lead author I spoke to earlier today.
I really want to empower people with the feeling that they can reduce their own risk, empowering people to look at their own situation without having to have the government sweep in and help them. The return on investment in the case of extreme heat is people not dying. I think that's a sound investment, really.
So what individuals can do right now, plant trees with your neighbors around your building. That will drop temperatures by degrees in future heat waves. Add shutters to your building. If you're a building manager, add a green roof to the top of your building. And what I really liked is that these solutions were really focused on the individual and on community, and the fact that that's really what's going to get us through the inevitable rise in heat waves down the road.
Yeah, the stuff that we can do to make a difference ourselves, for sure.
Exactly.
Thank you, Jo.
You're welcome.
As the last defenders in Mariupol dig in, the rest of Ukraine faces a new onslaught from Russia. We'll take you there next.
Many people admit they've smoked marijuana, from well-known personalities to plain ordinary folks. It's still illegal, of course, but hundreds of people gathered in Vancouver today to declare the law is out of touch and out of date. And as Ian Hannamansing tells us, they made their point by breaking the law in the full view of the police.
Change the law! The message here was simple: legalize it.
It's only a drop in the ocean, but the tide is coming in.
It grows, grows in nature, so why can't we do it? Alcohol is the worst drug.
Some here argued for the freedom to smoke. Others argued the benefits of making clothes from the marijuana plant. And a few simply argued.
You've made it a moral issue. It's 4 times more renewable than trees. How about using it to make paper? What about that? Are you against that too?
This rally comes as more and more government members admit to what some, at least, consider taboo. From the qualified response of a then presidential candidate,
I experimented with marijuana a time or two, and I didn't like it,
to the matter-of-fact admission of a provincial cabinet minister.
And having had many of the same experiences at university that other people have had in my generation,
This week, NDP MP Jim Fulton introduced a private member's bill in the House of Commons to legalize marijuana. But the government made it clear it will not be changing the law.
As I said, I don't see the benefits of making that kind of product easier to get, particularly for young people.
It was certainly easy to get here. Police watched the rally from a nearby hotel, but that's as close as they got. For a few hours at least, demonstrators enjoyed their dream, smoking openly, in public, without arrest. Ian Hannamansing, CBC News, Vancouver.
The Fox family and the people of Port Coquitlam were proud and delighted today when Terry's father, Rolly, and Andre Ouellette, the minister responsible for Canada Post, unveiled the special stamp.
To Terry Fox, the local boy who gave far more to his country than his country was able to give him.
They're lovely, aren't they? They are. 44 million 30-cent stamps have been issued, but the post office has no plans to donate any of the revenue to cancer research.
There was a bit of a fuss last year when a group of people from Vancouver asked for a Terry Fox stamp. The rules stated quite clearly that that honor only goes to royalty or to people 10 years after their death. But the decision was finally made to break that tradition, and Terry Fox's parents are pleased.
Terry Fox started on his incredible challenge 2 years ago this week. Today, over $25 million has been raised for cancer research, and Canada still marvels at his remarkable effort, a dream that accomplished more than he ever imagined. Sue Stern, CBC News, Port Coquitlam.
The second phase of the Russian invasion of Ukraine is intensifying. Russian forces are pressing throughout the eastern region. The CBC's Ellen Morrow tells us defenders are digging in along a battlefront that now runs across the country from Kharkiv in the north to Mariupol in the south.
Life now in besieged Mariupol. This video purporting to show hundreds of civilians sheltering underground at a steel factory, clinging to hope they'll somehow make it to safety, though it can feel impossible. My youngest child cries at everything, this woman says. He and my oldest are starting to have depression. They miss a peaceful life. The last of Mariupol's Ukrainian forces are holed up in the same factory, resisting a Russian ultimatum to put down their weapons, but warning Mariupol may fall within hours.
The enemy's units are 10 times larger than ours. They have supremacy in the air, artillery, and units that are dislocated on the ground, equipment, and tanks.
Dozens did manage to escape Mariupol today, but tens of thousands remain stuck living under near constant Russian bombardment. This is what the strategic port city looks like now as the onslaught in Ukraine's Donbas region intensifies. Russia claims it hit more than 1,000 military targets overnight, but it's countless civilians bearing the pain of this brutal war. In Kharkiv, Ukraine's second largest city, firefighters scramble to rescue residents of an apartment building struck by a Russian missile. This woman, Olga, lost her cat in the fire.
It's disasters. It's like no comments. I don't feel now nothing. It's all my life.
As Ukraine tries to push back the renewed Russian offensive, President Volodymyr Zelensky again appealed for more weapons in his nightly address. It's unfair, he says. If our partners have the weapons Ukraine needs, it is their moral duty to protect freedom. Zelensky's plea is even more urgent now with Russia's invasion in its second phase. More weapons from Western countries are coming, including from Canada. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau saying Canada will send heavy artillery, but declining to provide a public timeline, citing security concerns. Ellen Morrow, CBC News, Lviv.
As Russian troops make their way eastward, many areas they're passing through are not clear of danger. A new dangerous effort is now underway to get rid of all the explosives and booby traps they left behind for Ukrainians. As Chris Brown shows us, it's a huge task and lives depend on it.
Before the Russians came, this was a thriving truck business in the Kyiv suburb of Hostomel. After they left, it was a place of destruction and danger. Service manager Yuri Deshko says he and his workers discovered booby traps, 7 and counting, as he carefully walked us around the property. Some doors, he says, were wired with grenades to explode when they were opened. Others were hidden under tires, some even under the driver's seat cushion. Deshko says the Russians used his business as a command headquarters and took exceptional measures to protect it. These cables were used to explode anti-personnel mines placed around the property. Upstairs, the Russians left more mess, including an office converted to a sniper's nest. They left rations, even a bottle filled with urine, as a shooter couldn't leave his perch, plus the detonator to blow up the mines outside.
They made this to deliberately hurt Ukrainians who came back here. How does that make you feel?
This hate will stay in the hearts of Ukrainians for a long, long time, he said, and it's not finished yet.
Ukraine's government says its teams are now removing almost 6,000 explosive devices a day from around this country. from homes, from businesses, and especially around the countryside. A few kilometers away, it's a different challenge, but with the same danger. A Russian military convoy was destroyed here, with ammunition scattering everywhere. This Ukrainian colonel goes by Ruslan.
One day of a war, it's 1 month of demining work, but if we have an area like this, it can take even longer.
Some of these tank shells are deadly but stable, but not this unexploded anti-personnel mine.
Сюрпризів багато.
There are many surprises, he said. This loaded anti-tank launcher was found in the field. More often, though, the explosive hazards are harder to discover. The metal detectors are constantly beeping, so the sappers have to poke and dig to see what's there. Here, it's a big haul of discarded anti-aircraft rounds. The war is not as scary as the aftermath of the war, he told us. The signs warning of mines are everywhere, and the reports of casualties are increasing. Near Chernihiv, a farmer plowing his field was killed after his tractor hit an unexploded Russian bomb.
So our main option is to win. We feel very horrible about all that we've seen, not only in Kyiv region, but all through Ukraine.
The Russians only briefly held this area. In other places where they've been longer, the effort required to make communities safe again will be staggering.
Well, if you've pulled the plug on your Netflix subscription, you're not alone. Why the streaming service has lost so many subscribers and why it's just the tip of the iceberg. Next. And at 6:45, a live look tonight on the Georgia Viaduct. Rain, well, you can see it's coming into the region, but there is sun in the forecast. Johanna has all the details next.
And for our last item in today's program, we have our panelists Stephen Gare, Janet Graves, and David Sharp. We're going to discuss the question, should children be allowed to read crime comics? Now, here is your panel chairman, Avril Campbell, to open the discussion.
Good afternoon. David Sharp, do you think children should be allowed to read crime comics?
No, I don't think children should read crime comics. There's really nothing good in them. They're bad, and most of the crime comics are just, they're overdone, exaggerated.
Janet Graves, how do you feel? Well, I feel that they should read some crime comics, but they should read other comics if they want to. Besides those, I think crime comics is a very minor idea in that sense. Stephen, how do you feel? I disagree with David. I think they should read crime comics because, well, it teaches them that crime doesn't pay, and the crook always gets caught, and that'll tell them that they get punished for the things they do wrong. It'll tell them to be careful going across the street, because in the comics they have hit-and-run drivers, and it'll tell them quite a few things.
I don't think children need to read comics just to, they can find it out in a lot better ways than reading comics to find out that crooks always get caught. I don't think they're good for the child. They're so over-exaggerated. Well, some of these novels are all right.
And we're talking about comics.
Yes, but I'm just bringing the point that novels are maybe better than these crime comics. They're
and it may
gruesome
affect them in their life. Gruesome. Well, if the children think they're gruesome, they don't have to read them. But they enjoy crime comics, and it still teaches them things. Just say somebody read a comic, and like some people say he read it and then he was going to commit a robbery. But he would do it anyway. He wouldn't do it just because he read a comic and saw a robbery committed in a comic. But they might not know that it is that. Reading comics.
Well, I don't think crime comics, whether, even with your point, they're not good. There's nothing so great about them. There's lots of other things that are much more interesting to read.
But then, if they're not so good, why do so many children read them? And why do they publish them? Excuse me, getting to this point, now Stephen, there are a lot of books that are published that shouldn't be. Tell me, Janet, do you think that the parents should see whether, following their own opinion, see whether the child should read crime comics or not, or do you think it should be up to the child? Well, it's up to the child, really, because if the parents don't want them to read them, well, they needn't. But I think that mystery books are better than crime comics for the child.
Well, thank you very much, Ken. I'm sorry our time is all up. We have to wind up Junior TV Club for today. We hope you'll tune in next week. But until then, goodbye.
This has been Junior TV Club, a weekly variety program designed for the younger viewers. This has been a CBC Vancouver production.
And meteorologist Johanna Wagstaffe joins us now from inside, where you are tracking some mountain snow.
Yes, it's true. It should all stay at the alpine level, or at least above 1,000 meters. But Anita, we are still accumulating snow across our mountains into mid-April. Quite the contrast from where we were this time last year. We had already gone through a bit of an April heat wave, and we had started the spring freshet, the spring snowpack melt. We are weeks away from that. Let me take you through the snowfall accumulation. Again, this is all in our mountains, but the latest storm cycle will bring fresh snow. Not a lot, but you can see, 2 to 10 centimeters to southern BC. And that's really where we're seeing the above seasonal snowpack. So there will be another update to the snowpack next week. We're starting to watch this closely as we get into both flood and fire forecasts. But again, we are weeks away from that given our current spring cycles, and we are seeing cooler than normal conditions continue across most of the country. 7 tonight in through Toronto and a 6 out towards Halifax. Quick look at the radar, and yes, the yellow has moved northward. We are seeing heavy rain in those yellow bands across quite the swath in Metro Vancouver, and that will continue to slide up from the south. Look at that general rotation in our forecast models. Off the coast, it's the swirling low that'll bring in bands of rain through your Thursday. Then a Pacific system moves things from west to east. We get a nice little break Friday before we see some increasing cloud Friday night. But for the most part, that next Pacific system will stay offshore until about Sunday. And even then, some models are showing it'll lose its punch and we'll just be left with a few showers. So a nice little break between systems Friday and Saturday. Now, the South Coast, you're really getting into that band, that circling storm. Kelowna, Cranbrook, all look for an afternoon thunderstorm after, of course, morning flurries. But note Williams Lake, Prince George, even up towards the Peace, Dees Lake, you are above this system for tomorrow. So enjoy the sunshine. And another nice one is through Prince Rupert. As I take you through the weekend, we hit 14 a couple of times. That's our seasonal. For the most part, more sun than rain in the long range. And that's the silver lining with your forecast.
That's what we want to hear. Thanks, Joe.
You're welcome.
Netflix has revealed it lost 200,000 subscribers in the first 3 months of this year. It's the first decline for the streaming service in more than a decade and has triggered a sharp plunge in its stock value. As Thomas Dagler reports, the company is blaming a combination of factors, including competition, password sharing, and inflation.
Movie buffs used to complain about the price of cinema tickets. Now it's the ever-rising cost of a Netflix subscription.
They need to make money somehow, but I'm not happy about it.
I think it's just a lot, and it's a big jump.
With stiff competition from the likes of Amazon, Disney, and Apple, the company that pioneered streaming is now stumbling, with Netflix reporting a loss of 640,000 subscribers in the U.S. and Canada just this year.
It's something that I think was inevitable because they had the market to themselves for so long.
As inflation pushes up the cost of virtually everything, Netflix has raised its premium plan past $20 a month. It's now mulling a lower price solution that was once unthinkable. Netflix, but with commercials.
Those who have followed Netflix know that I've been against the complexity of advertising and a big fan of the simplicity of subscription.
At the company's headquarters, they're also considering how to crack down on password sharing. Everyone does it, but Netflix doesn't love it. So soon it will come with a catch.
We're not trying to shut down that sharing, but we're going to ask you to pay a bit more.
Netflix also lost 700,000 subscribers when it pulled out of Russia over its invasion of Ukraine.
Hey, buddy.
But make no mistake, Netflix remains a behemoth with nearly 75 million subscribers just in the US and Canada, scoring a slew of Oscar nominations for original films and still delivering hit series like Inventing Anna, Ozark, and Bridgerton. But as the pandemic no longer keeps people stuck at home,
it raises questions about the ultimate end game for, Netflix, of course, and of course for all of streamers.
By this summer, Netflix says another 2 million subscribers worldwide are expected to hit exit. Thomas Dagg, CBC News, Toronto.
Not floor it, just floor it.
Is it a bird? Is it a plane? Nope, it's a car. Why might be the bigger question. We'll try to answer that next.
In 2020, Filipino Canadians and other expats sent home $1 billion. And for the past decade, Mylene Badiota had been doing the same thing.
For a mom to live with the children, it's painful. And it's sad, and you don't like the feeling. To be honest, you don't like your children live for work. That I don't like.
Badiola is no stranger to hard work. In her 10 years here, she's moved from a counter attendant to shift supervisor to a manager in training. While she's normally all smiles, one thing is a source of constant sadness.
It's indescribable, the feeling that you have when you leave the airport and leave them behind.
Badiola said goodbye to her daughter Kate and sons Jello and Jade. Back in 2012, they were just 11, 9, and 5.
One thing I said to my children, I'm gonna work and bring you here as well.
But Badiola says the process was confusing, and she couldn't afford to hire a lawyer to help. A large portion of her wages was sent home to her former husband and 3 children, as well as her mother and sister. A missing form on her first application meant rejection.
Your immigration is very, very strict on all the requirements, so it's been hard. And then the second attempt that I did is I didn't sign one of those forms, just one, and it returned back to me. The third time I did, and instead of paying online, I paid check, so it went back on me.
With one last chance, Badiola couldn't afford any mistakes. An army of friends and strangers stepped in to help. The owners of the Tim Hortons where she works covered her application fee.
I am crying and I'm happy. I don't know what kind of feeling that I have, because it's like this is your final straw.
While here, Badiola found something she wasn't expecting: love. She has since remarried and has had 2 other children. Now she's lost 2 children as well due to a very rare condition. On February 3rd of this year, something to smile about. Landing in the height of winter after an incredibly long journey, mother and son reunited.
I feel like I'm gonna faint. Like my heart. I'm picturing my mind seeing him when he was really 5-year-old.
While Jade continues to figure out Canadian life, his mom has not given up on trying to bring his older brother and sister here to Newfoundland and Labrador. And as she said to me, 1 here, 2 to go. Jeremy Eaton, CBC News, St. John.
Hi, I'm Amy Bell. Here's what's in your CBC Vancouver inbox.
Join CBC Vancouver's Gloria Makarenko at the annual Because Mothers Matter Awards on May 4th. Celebrate women's extraordinary achievements at this year's event. Learn more at mothersmattercenter.ca. And the Doxa Documentary Film Festival returns May 5th to 15th. Get your tickets at doxafestival.ca.
Well, in the UK, drivers are attempting to hop their dilapidated vehicles over a line of other wrecks in an effort to outdo the competition. Some were more successful than others. Each jump is judged on height, distance, and crowd reaction. This year's champion takes home a little money, a little trophy, and a lot of bragging rights. Not bad. I don't think I'd succeed in that one at all. A group of conservationists near Victoria is getting hands-on when it comes to protecting salmon, and we mean that literally. Take a look. Experts say salmon stock in the area is extremely fragile, partly because of barriers like roads. So Mill Bay Conservation Society has come up with a solution to help fish reach their spawning grounds. Volunteers trap and guide salmon upstream using tools like fish ladders and even a rail system pulled by a pickup truck, sometimes even carrying them by hand. The journey crosses several waterfalls and the Trans-Canada Highway. Millions of eggs are expected to hatch from this effort, which means hundreds of thousands of young salmon will make it back to the Salish Sea. Good stuff. Always good to see them actually making it to their destination. Well, thanks for being with us tonight on CBC Vancouver News at 6. That's it for our show, and we'll leave you with a look at Cypress Mountain. Take a look. The chairlifts might be stopped as the ski hill has closed, but still plenty of snow in the mountains as we continue to have a cold and wet spring. Dan Burritt is back here at 11. See you tomorrow.